go from there.
Perfect. Yeah. So thank you all for coming out today and having me as well. But yeah, so I run a company called Nebraska Innovation Labs. We kind of have a lot of different initiatives, but our kind of main goal is to help grow Nebraska. Primarily through building companies here. So for anyone who's probably looked at it, I think we all have kind of had an idea of like, hey, I think I got the next big thing. A lot of the time, and even this happened to me earlier on, was you're like, hey, I have an idea, and it's most of the time going to be around an app or software. You go look, and if you Google it, from what I'm aware of, the first thing you'll see is costs upwards of $100,000 to maybe $250,000 to build an app. And a lot of the times people are like, all right, and they close the browser. So if you've been in that, that's normally the case, and we're kind of trying to break that barrier down, reduce the barrier to entry, create more companies here, or in general, and then we have a certain way of kind of operating that allows us to kind of hit the areas of talent, and then also, I guess giving them their next opportunity, first and next opportunity. So our main goal is to build software and apps. It originally started as building MVPs, with minimum viable products, which is just kind of their version 1, the minimum they need to go to market. But we realized that a lot of the times they need more than just kind of that version 1, and we drop them off. I always relate it to like a, kid and an adult is, if you let go of their hand, they're probably going to try to grab it back because they don't know what to do. So we kind of now help them through a little bit of that post MVP phase, but we build out their version 1. We also realize that there are companies out there that have a version 2 or version 1, and they need a version 2 built, and we realize we can hit that area, and then even as small as reaching a brick and mortar business or anyone who needs like kind of a custom built website. We realize there's a need for that as well. We do all of this at low cost. Kind of our cost structure is charging at cost with a very small margin just for overhead, paying rent, keeping the lights on, stuff like that. And we do that, and kind of the second part of it is by pairing junior and senior talent. So that not only keeps the cost low, but allows us to give the young tech talent in Nebraska an opportunity to grow through work and learning experience. So we'll take someone who has no experience and just a ton of drive, or someone with a little bit of experience and drive, and help them get a real meaningful work experience. A lot of what we provide is kind of unseen in the workplace now. Our developers are doing hands-on software development and can accurately claim that they built a large percent of a full software or app that goes to market. So those are kind of the two main fronts, and we believe, if we grow a company here, that company will go on to hire people. And then if we, build our own talent and send them out into the Nebraska ecosystem, that helps kind of, grow and build up talent. A lot of what we find is there's a huge demand for experienced tech talent and a huge supply of kind of inexperienced tech talent, and not too much of a bridge in between. And so we're kind of creating that bridge of giving them something super valuable and super kind of unheard of, and then being able to funnel them to other companies, which is kind of another area we work in as well. And we're also all about connecting. So, if you had an idea for something, obviously development's going to be kind of the first real step, but there's a lot that goes into it beforehand. Making sure it's a feasible business by doing, market research, customer surveys, all of that, and then figuring out how you're going to fund it. Because while we're low cost, so we won't be in between that. Our highest end is around maybe that 100K, but we won't ever probably reach that 250K unless you're trying to build something absolutely massive. And so figuring out funding, whether it's, bootstrapping, friends and family, taking some early investment, all of that, we can kind of work with you through and figure that out with you. We have a huge network of different resources, so in the financial space, legal, and we can even tell you, if you come to us with just an idea and not even like a name for the company, we'll tell you the next steps of, and it's a lot of times it's pretty basic of, if you're going to go into a certain field, start interviewing companies in that field, ask them what they currently use. If they don't use something, what would they want to see? If they do use something, what do they like? What do they don't like? What do they want to see in terms of features with what they're using? And a lot of the times you'll find that there's a pretty big need, especially in Nebraska, for there might be an app or software that does what you're trying to do, but it's too big and not taking enough feedback. So there's a lot of opportunities sometimes. So that's kind of a high-level overview. There's a lot of different areas we touch with doing that. But yeah, it's kind of, we take an idea and take a company all the way up to scaling. We're even trying to expand that side of it, of getting our founders and people we work with connected with experts that have scaled businesses in the past and kind of can help. So really getting a business from an idea to honestly maybe almost claiming that you can get from idea to exit or, sustainability is kind of our goal.
So what you do is unique.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Many of us may not have heard of this type of organization or this type of setup. So in that spirit, would you be willing to give us like a specific example of how you have worked with a founder and connecting them with talent? Maybe you can't share what that actual product would be, but just so that we maybe have a real life example as to a specific situation that you've come across.
Yeah, so it's kind of a, I can give specific examples as well, but it's a lot of what we see is the same thing of people that come into Nebraska or have been in Nebraska and they, are in certain spaces. So they're former military or in the medical space. And so they're very specialized in their field and they don't go too much into the business, ecosystem of networking and talking to people in finance and legal and all of that. So when whatever happens, I think everyone kind of has a moment at some point or a few moments where they think, hey, I kind of want to start a venture. They don't know what to do with or kind of take their next steps, and a lot of the times it's kind of slowly going through it. What we help is kind of expediting that, and so a lot of what we've seen is someone who's very specialized in their field, so like medicine, and they come to us and they're like, I want to build a medical device or a medical platform, and we very much expedite by making connections and using our experience as a team to kind of get them from idea to building something and then off on their own. That's a lot of what we've seen. I know it's kind of broad, but it's a lot of what we see. We have people that come to us at different stages. So similar to kind of how broad our reach is we've had people that come with just an idea, and then we've had a company that was looking at building a version 2 of their app. And we've had companies that are midway through development with someone else and are looking at switching. And it kind of varies in between. We've seen, I want to say, almost at every stage besides maybe like a massive company looking at building something, but a lot of the times they have their own internal teams. But that's kind of typically what we see is just people at some stage, a lot early on. I've probably met with a good margin of people who just have an idea and we're like, should I pursue it? And I've even met with people who say, hey, I'm thinking about building this platform that just scratches my own itch. I don't plan on selling it. I don't plan on doing it. And I've talked to people after an hour conversation. I'm like, if you just add like this feature and you adjust it to work like this, I'm like, you can monetize it, then you can start looking at some funding. There's a lot of state funding that is kind of, the goal is to provide economic growth for Nebraska, and it can turn into a business, and depending on how much you want to do, you can kind of really build it into something big. And if it's something you're passionate about and it scratches your own itch, that's kind of the best founder, because you want to solve your own problem because you'll be the most kind of adept to enter that field, and you'll be very passionate and very innovative because you experience it yourself. So
it sounds like a lot of what you do we do here too. Only we don't specialize necessarily in tech. That doesn't, but we don't, connect developers with founders. So a lot of the things that you talk about is, like you just talked about finding something that you're passionate about. But I also like what you talk about going out and testing, right? Asking people, if you had this, what do you like about this product that you have, and tell us about that. So that's another thing that we really like. So I'm glad that we can be partners in similar services that we have to offer.
Yeah.
You and I were talking before we started about funding and prototype grant.
Yeah.
I know that there's no money available now for that.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about funding opportunities in case anybody's interested in that type of funding?
Yeah, so kind of a lot of what funds what we do in terms of the founders that come to us and how they fund their projects with us is through the Department of Economic Development's prototype grant. So what this does is this gives founders or anyone with a kind of idea to build a prototype. They can get up to $150K, and it's a 2-to-1 match. So that kind of is a huge tool in building out a software, because it will close the financial gap that turns a lot of people away, and that is a huge resource. We've gone through it a few times, kind of our team, for other ventures, and then helping other founders that we work with directly or indirectly going through it. So we're kind of experts. And a huge thing about what we do is we're very Nebraska focused. So we will work with founders outside of the state because there's, might as well bring money and give more opportunities within the state. But all of our talent so far has stayed within the state. So at the junior and senior level, all our developers are in-house in Omaha, so we're based out of Omaha. And so that keeps the money in the state. The goal of the prototype grant is to build a company, very similar to kind of aligns with us, is to build a company here, and the money has to be used within the state. And kind of what sets us apart is all of our talent will also be in the state. So while a company's being built here and whoever's building it, that company is, bringing in money, that money isn't going to any talent or anything outside of the state. So that's a huge benefit as well, and the DED loves that as well. So I think that's a huge kind of thing in terms of what we're doing with the prototype grant. But I would definitely, if you have an idea, look into it. The prototype grant is purely, if you have an idea and you think you can monetize it, you can go after it, and we'd be happy to sit down and look at your kind of application for it, where we found what they kind of want to see and become very good at getting applications through. And if we're the ones building it out, they like to see that as well. So I feel like we can help there. So.
And you said that there's a high percentage of people that receive those grants, but since there's no funding now,
yeah, when
the funding opens in a few months, it will be a mad rush for those dollars.
Correct. Yeah. So from what I've been made aware is it goes in about 6-month cycles. I'm not sure exactly, so I don't want to claim how much is in the fund, but a majority of people do get approved as long as your application is thoroughly and properly filled out, and just proving that you plan to monetize it. It goes normally in 6-month cycles, and I've been told that in the past it would go, but it wouldn't ever run out. So you could pretty much anytime access or apply and get approved. But I think in this last cycle may have been the first time that they ran out of money. And so here when it opens, I think in either June or July, it will be the same amount as what's been in the pool in the past. But because there's so much kind of pent up demand for it, that it will be pretty competitive. I think there's a lot of people going after it. We have a lot of founders that we're looking at doing projects with that are going to go after it. So it's definitely, a pretty useful resource, as we'll probably see here. I'm assuming just based on, trends, that it will probably run out faster this go around, and we'll see what happens after that.
We like to ask some of our speakers some more questions about you.
Yeah.
So do you have any books that you have read that you have utilized, or some of your favorites, or do you have podcasts or things like that you kind of continue to come back to?
Yeah, so sounds terrible. I need to get better at reading. I don't read too much. I need to, though. Everyone always tells me, and it's a huge thing in kind of the entrepreneur and business space is reading, and there's a ton of good books, and I had a list somewhere of books that I need to update and actually keep up to date. But so books I have not been on top of since I was in school and forced to read. But podcasts, I don't normally listen to anything as such business related. I'll do it based on who's speaking, and I like to be a bit of a jack of all trades, so knowledgeable in a lot of areas. So, but I like to listen to, anyone who's kind of in the business space and started something. So I know Gary Vaynerchuk's a huge person and all of that. And they a lot of times have a lot of good stuff on the business side. And if you're into social media, for example, that's Gary V's kind of specialty, is kind of, he has a lot of information on that, but then a lot of kind of the mental side of it, of being, mentally strong and, because entrepreneurship's not easy, as anyone in here knows, especially when you do anything even, I consider sales entrepreneurship, because you're out and selling and very kind of independent, it's not easy, and you have expectations, and there's always some risk associated with it. And so he has a lot of good content over handling that. So kind of, it's a broad thing. I don't have anything specifically, oddly enough, for business. But there's also I've heard there's a lot of business podcasts out of Omaha and Lincoln. I just went on the Nebraska Tech Collaboratives one, so they have some pretty good resources in terms of people in the space, people in the tech space, and then people also on the talent side, they have a whole program called Intern Nebraska, and so there's a lot of good resources there as well. But sadly, I don't read enough to answer that question. But I will next time. I'll have hopefully a list.
I'll have to remember that when we invite you to our book club.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Omaha or Lincoln, what are some of your favorite local businesses that you like to do business with?
So everyone's gonna think I'm kind of lame. I don't go out that much, but I do have a few. I mean, but they're not like. I mean, they're kind of like the basics, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, like that's not like. I feel like it's a good answer if no one's heard of it, but like, I don't know, I like burgers, so like. Honest Abe's is obviously kind of chain, but I think it's only in Lincoln. It's decent, but obviously probably everyone in here's had it, so that's a terrible answer. Stella's in Omaha apparently I think has the best burger in Nebraska, though I don't know if they still hold that. That's also really good. I'm a foodie, but I oddly enough just don't eat out that much, so I don't know. That's a world I want to get into, though. That's one thing I like to do is if like me and my friends or whatever it might be are going out to get food or whatever is, rather than going to the same place every time to try something new, I just don't even do it enough. So yeah.
That could be a challenge for you. Right?
Exactly, that and reading. Those are both on my to-dos. But yeah.
Great. So we'll open it up for any questions that anyone has for Dillon. Yes, Jody.
So what sent you on this journey? I mean, what sparked this interest in it? I mean, you woke up one day and it's like, this is what I want to do, or?
Yeah, so I was brought in to help scale it. It was started as a way to give back, but it needed more fuel in the fire. So I came on originally kind of to learn a bit more about business, be around people that are in this space, because entrepreneurship is my goal. I kind of want to constantly start new businesses and keep them running and kind of funnel the money that I get out of it into other ventures and other initiatives. And so that was the original goal. Outside of the Innovation Labs, I also have my own company, and so oddly enough, when I go to speak to both founders and talent, I've been on both their sides. So on the founder side, my other company, we just finished development on, and we're probably going to go to market here soon, though there's definitely some obstacles that we're going through, which is always fun, but and it's not with the Innovation Labs, so they didn't do our development. That's not to sell the Innovation Labs, but so we're going through that, but we're trying to go to market. But I'm not technical myself. So the Innovation Labs, because it's not for profit, we run very lean. I'm the only non-developer in the company, so I do all our sales, marketing, HR, kind of operations as a whole to keep it very lean. But I'm not technical, so I don't know development. I know I'm probably better than the average person with a computer, but I always say my tech savviness ends at coding. And so when I went to go get that business's software developed, I didn't know, should I take it overseas? If I take it overseas, how do I deal with time zone differences? What am I going to look at in terms of quality? If I come here, do I need to sell my kidney to fund it? Or how am I going to fund, building an app here? And kind of navigating through all that. And then there's all of the tech piece of it is like, what language should it be built in? What frameworks, how do I get it on iOS and Android, like all of that stuff I did not know. And it's stuff you can learn, but it's not an easy field. Like it's stuff that you can research, but you'll find different answers, and a lot of the times it's best heard from an expert who's done it before. And so when I go out to speak to founders who want to get something built, I've been in their shoes. So I'm not selling anything. Being a not-for-profit, we're not really selling anything either. We're not, we purely are doing this as kind of a way to grow companies. So we're not, trying to hit a certain goal every quarter or every year. So when I go out, I really don't feel like I'm doing sales, because not only do I not have a quota to hit, but I've been in their shoes. I'm like, hey, I've, literally not too long ago, I was in your shoes looking to get something built. I didn't know how to fund it. I didn't know, besides the idea, how to build it, and I didn't know who to go to. And now, being in that, it's more of a conversation rather than a sales pitch when I talk to these founders. And then on the other side of it, so I'm only 23. I graduated from UNL here in 2021, and when I was in school there and after graduating, it was very hard to find kind of meaningful work. What I always say is I think everyone should always be, your position you're in should be, you should be learning and growing, and it should be helping you whether advance within the same organization or help you find your next opportunity. And finding that in school and out of school is somewhat difficult, and it's just getting more and more competitive. So when I speak to talent, I'm not just going from hey, come work for us, come do some work. It's rather like, hey, I've been in your shoes as a, student and then a post grad of like, hey, how do I find a job that's gonna set me apart from the competition, get me ahead, get me my next opportunity, or get me promoted and move up within a company, or whatever it might be. So when I speak to them as well, I don't feel like I'm just doing the classic HR. As kind of our goal as an organization, and then how I do HR, I guess HR and hiring is, I have them submit a resume, but I honestly don't, and this is exposing myself, I don't really read it. I'll look at it and see where you're at. So I've interviewed students as young as a sophomore in high school for software development, all the way through to people in their late 20s, and I always say it's their first or next opportunity in their professional career. But I'll look at a resume and purely do it from the standpoint of, who am I talking to? Am I talking to a 17-year-old in high school whose prior job was at a movie theater? That was my first job. Or am I talking to someone in their late 20s who's probably had, an tech internship and maybe a tech job outside of school, and they're just looking for a better or their next opportunity? Because that guides how I do the interview. And then I invite everyone in for an interview. I do, no matter your background, because we take people with no experience, I invite everyone in, and I want to get to know you as a person. I don't ask, tell me a situation of when you face some hardships, because I think we all know we hate those questions. But I'm rather like, what do you want to do? What's your goal? What's your goal in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? What's your ideal job? Like for what company, doing what? Everyone obviously that we speak to is in tech, but do you want to do like medical tech? Do you want to do, where do you want to be? And making sure, because that also aligns with what projects we do, because we get founders in different spaces. So I'm a huge believer, if the junior talent or talent in general that we're working with is passionate about the project they're on, they're going to perform a lot better. Another thing that I kind of forgot to mention is we operate very differently in that we actually, this is probably not a good way of phrasing it, but we want high turnover with our talent. And that being, we want to so there's the first option is our junior talent, we can sometimes build them up into senior talent and then have them mentor projects for us or be a senior person. The other two routes are encouraging turnover, and that's, we encourage the founders that we work with, or business owners, or whoever it might be that we're building something as little as a website or software for, to take our team. We want you to hire them off of us. And that's so we can give the next batch of students or the next cohort or whatever it might be coming out of school or whatever institutions we work with an opportunity. Because if we keep the same talent, we can build them up, we can teach them a ton, but we want to give that opportunity to as many people as possible, because it's rare. So we encourage them to do that. Otherwise, I'm making a huge initiative to talk to companies of all sizes. So whether you're a startup and with a few employees, like less than a handful, or you're a big player, like the big players in Nebraska that have hundreds of employees, I'm trying to speak to their HR or just whoever's in charge of hiring and letting them know, like, hey, we'd love to be a resource for you to access this young, innovative tech talent, because you're going to be getting tech talent that's ahead of their peers. They've worked on kind of stuff that normally it takes years for them to get their hands on, and they're young, so they have innovative ideas. That's a huge thing with software development, is you'll give an idea on how you want something built, but we don't have the time to sit there and go down to, sand grain detail on how we're going to build it out. So a lot of it's up for interpretation, and there's sometimes the junior and senior team will get it wrong, and the founder will say, hey, no, we want to fix it. But there's other times where it's like, hey, I told you to build it like this, and you built it like this, and this is actually way better than I thought. So they actually get a hand in, they're kind of almost part of creating the idea. Like, they just follow kind of higher level direction and build it based off their experience and how they think it should be. So that's kind of, I guess, long answer to your question, but yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Stacy?
Which industry do you think is ripe for disruption for people to?
So oddly enough, and this is like, I feel like my answer is always people probably wonder like what I'd even do. So yeah, I'm not huge into reading or going out too much, and I'm not into sports, but oddly enough, I've heard that there is such a lack of innovation in sports tech. I've heard some people doing interesting things in terms of just sports and technology, but on the health side of it, I think there is oddly just such a lack, and maybe there's a reason, I don't know, I don't do too much research into it, but there just seems to be a lot of kind of lack of innovation there. And with how kind of, someone said, like, athletes are a pretty big asset in terms of, what they are and what they can do. And oddly enough, people aren't innovating. Like I know, for example, head injuries in football is huge, and I think there's people innovating in that space, but it doesn't seem to be there doesn't seem to be enough fuel in the fire in terms of innovation there. So that's kind of the number one thing, and me not even being kind of a sports fan, I would say that's the number one industry right now that I'd see that's prime for disruption.
Scott, did you have a question?
Morning. I'm also an avid non-reader.
Yeah, perfect.
Question on, you'd given a scenario earlier about somebody in the medical field.
Yeah.
Are you primarily software, or are you also hardware development?
No, so we're primarily software. We have in the past built a software that paired with hardware for a medical device. But depending on your situation, we also have access to very good hardware people. So we can kind of get you connected there as well. But we're mainly software.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions?
This
is Jim. I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, Dillon, you mentioned a little bit about your background. I'm just curious what degree you have, what your degree is in.
Yeah, it's business management with a focus in entrepreneurship from UNL.
Okay. And then I'm going to rephrase Jody's question a little bit. I mean, what inspired you? Was there a person? Was there a family member? Was there an instructor? Was there one of the books that you have read? I mean, what was your inspiration to go down this road?
Yeah, so there's a few different things at play. I come from a kind of entrepreneurial background. My dad's a somewhat serial entrepreneur, and my mom's kind of always helped him, and she still does. She helps with kind of some of the finances, and honestly a bit of the HR side as well for a lot of his ventures, and even the innovation labs. She helps a little bit. And so I come from an entrepreneurial background. I love telling this story because I love inspiring entrepreneurship at a younger age. I'm trying to not even directly, I guess, helping the innovation labs is partnering with kind of high schools to help their business programs. But when I was 10 years old, and I don't know if anyone in here remembers, the iPhone 4 used to have the glass back, and everyone would drop it and it would shatter. And so I think either my mom, my dad, or someone we knew dropped their phone and it shattered. And I was like, oh, I can probably fix that. And I literally just watched a YouTube video and I was like, oh, you have to like unclip this from the motherboard and like you just put it in and boom. And then coming from an entrepreneurial background, my mom was like, oh, like my friends would love for you to do this and like you can get paid. And I was like, oh, sweet. Like I'll take the money and this is decently easy. Like I get it. And so it turned into a thing where she'd tell all her friends and she'd post about it on Facebook and like kind of turned into a little business. And from there, I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial mindset of like, how can I solve a problem? And monetizing it isn't always the main goal, but like that's, for example, we do like the business consulting piece and getting them up to the software development. We do that pretty much completely free because helping people in situations that they don't have other resources is situations I've been in. And when you get help from someone, I think everyone loves that. So helping people, kind of an entrepreneurial background and coming from and seeing entrepreneurship just throughout my life has kind of been a lot of kind of what got me into this position and role, I guess you could say.
Thank you. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Dillon, early on, and I forget exactly how you put it, but early on you made a comment that my understanding was that you try to pair young professionals with experienced professionals, and I forget exactly how you phrased that. Did I understand that correctly? And how did you phrase that? And can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so we pair what we call junior developers, which are those who are in school or fresh out of school, with senior developers, which are those with 10 plus years of experience. And that's kind of just a model of pairing junior and senior talent to encourage not only low cost kind of output, I guess you could say, but also giving them kind of a learning on the job experience. So.
And would they work together then on a project?
Yeah, so the split is normally so like let's say we build a software or an app, about 90 to maybe 95 and up to 99% of it's done by our junior people. The senior people, we actually encourage them not to touch the code. We encourage them to look at it, like QA over it, but we don't want them to touch the code because we want it to be a learning experience. And the whole goal is for that junior people to learn the whole thing, not even if it's like a hard task or hard section of code, if that's even the right term, for the senior person to just do it to get it over and done with, but rather teach the junior people. So I always phrase it as like a teacher-student setup where the teacher will never do your homework, but they'll help you get it done. So kind of that's how that setup works.
Can you speak to the background of your development experience most developers have?
Yeah, so on the senior side, we look for people with around 10 years of experience, just because that's, I think, where they enter that senior kind of title. In terms of what spaces they're in, obviously we can't really like pick and choose as such, but we try to find talent that matches what we're building. So, you know, if people have worked prior as like a senior dev at a medical tech company and we're building a medical founder's device or whatever it might be, then we try to pair that as well. And we try to we like to see a broad kind of array of languages and experience in languages and frameworks, because one thing that's also kind of I think can be good about us is when we get with a founder and they're like, hey, I have an idea to build this, we'll tell them, hey, we think it should be done with, you know, these languages and built this way. But if they come in with whether it's prior kind of information from another company they might have looked at working with, or they come in with any prior preference, we'll factor that in. And at the end of the day, it's their choice. And then we source the team of talent based on that. So we like to see a broad kind of array of it, just so that when we do have a founder who, you know, we say maybe build it in language A, and they're like, I actually heard like language C would be best. We're like, okay, perfect. We'll find a team of talent that works with language C. And it's at the senior level, that's where it has to be. Like, we have to find someone with that experience. At the junior level, because we take people with no experience, it's really finding like, hey, do you have an interest? Do you think you'd be interested in learning this? You know, have you looked into it before? Have you taken courses over it? Kind of figuring that out as well. But at the junior level, it's a little easier. The senior level, we want them to, you know, have some years of experience. But it's pretty broad. We don't have a specific subset, I guess, of languages or anything we look for. It's just kind of how much time they've spent in the dev world. So
And this pool of talent that you have, like
Yep.
I'm interested specifically in the senior developers.
yeah.
So are they freelance? Are they consultants? Like,
Yeah, so it can, so we've had a few different setups. So as part of running Lean, we work out of another company's office till we hit capacity, which we're close to. But oddly enough, one of the senior devs that we currently have on a project is actually an employee of theirs as well, so he works for both companies. Another senior dev that we have actually runs his own development shop and then does this on the side. And so it can range. I believe in a normal situation, they're technically like a W-2 employee of the innovation labs. That's what we try to do, is also part of making it easier on founders, is founders can obviously go take on the team, but doing all the hiring and we do all the payroll and everything like that takes a lot of burden off of them, because what I always say is while you're building it out, it's not just like, oh, like wait till it's built out and then you take the next step. There's a lot that you can probably do while it's being built out, and this is coming from experience of, all right, what's my sales plan? How am I going to market this? Where should I market it? Who should I be talking to? You know, and you probably have it mostly figured out before you start development, but really, who's my target market? For my other company, I literally, just like driving around every day, I'll look at logos of companies. I'm like, I think that could be a possible like market to go look at. So I'll write it down in my phone notes. Like, that's like actively being aware and actively talking, and while you're building it out, start selling it, being like, hey, you know, I'm building this and it's going to be done by X date, and hopefully it actually is done by that date, but development can always be tricky. You know, I'd love to set up a conversation now or later, and love to do it. I've demoed my other company, the software we're building, before we even actually, like, I've demoed without actually even having a demo to show. And you can do that, and that's great, because if you know your product back to front and you can sell it that early, that's huge. So.
yes, Phil.
Sorry, I got a little bit of a lump in my throat here. From the developer standpoint, are you still treating that developer as a W-2? Because a lot of independent, let's say from a freelancer standpoint, do they want to have a stake in the software itself? Or how does that part of it work out? Because I understand the person's learning and part of it's the value of the education.
Yeah.
But from a senior developer standpoint, they're taking their 10 plus years of experience,
Yeah.
and giving it away for a W-2 position just seems a little odd.
So what for the senior people, because they don't do them, they do it from a very high level in terms of their work. It's not actually touching code. They only work 5 to maybe 10 hours a week at most. So for one thing, it's a part-time thing. We're decently small, so until we get up to a scale where we can have, it would probably equal out to about 4 projects. We couldn't take on a senior person full-time, so they do it part-time, they're paid as well. And then besides the one developer that we share with the company that we work out of their office, that senior talent's completely open for the taking. So it's been entertained and brought up as an idea of like founders sometimes need a CTO, someone who knows their system and who can talk the tech talk, especially when you go talk to investors or whatever it might be. So in terms of stake, the founder completely owns what we build for them. The team who built it does not. But with that being said, we actually encourage the founder to bring on that team, the senior and junior person, minus the one senior person we won't let people take. But so that's where it could work out, and a lot of the times it is because we've been asked to be kind of like a fractional CTO for people, but fractional only goes so far, especially depending on what area you're in and how fast you're trying to scale. We hit our limit pretty quick because we've got our hands tied with a lot of kind of the different avenues that we're in. So there is an opportunity for that kind of senior dev to get some stake out of it, but they get paid. It's part-time, so it's kind of just supplementary income, and it is kind of promoted as a bit of a way to give back and build the next generation of tech talent for them. So
Yes, Jody.
You made mention that you're launching a new business, your own business.
Yeah.
And are you able to let us know what it's going to be?
yeah, so that company is called B2 Gig. It is I probably am pretty bad at describing it, honestly, because it's a weird system, but it's basically what I describe it as it's an operations management platform for service-based businesses, and without using a ton of keyword or hot words, I guess people always say. Basically, I always use the example of like plumbers or electricians, anyone who does service-based work. It manages their operations from when you book an appointment with them all the way through to payment collection, and it encompasses things like scheduling out an appointment to employees, tracking time and parts or whatever might be used. Basically, that factors into an invoice. It builds the invoice, and then the invoice can be sent and payment can be collected all in the field, all through a mobile app. So that's a prime example. For example, what I referenced of, there's other people in the space doing it 100%. When I did my market research and talked to companies in just about every industry, and that was also the example I used of just like while your software is getting built, look around. So that, for example, you would think plumbers, electricians, pretty straightforward in terms of who we could work with, but I found out mobile dog grooming is a thing. And so that's a service-based business, and I was like, I just saw my neighbor was getting her dog haircut or something. The van was sitting right there, and I was like, I literally wrote it down in my notes. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start calling all the mobile dog groomers. But yeah, that's what the software does. It's to help take time or give time back to the business owner, so they're not working in the business, they're rather working on it. Especially in cases where it's like a solo business owner, this software almost acts as like an administrative assistant or an office manager or whatever it might be. The ideal situation, and this is something I'm trying to get to built into our version 1 before we launch, is I'm a night owl, so I will be working on stuff at like 2 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I need a haircut. And like, for example, the person I get my haircut with, originally I had to call them or text them to get an appointment, and they recently added it so I can book an appointment with them online. And that, I knew this before that, but that kind of thing is amazing for like something where you don't need to talk to someone. For example, to get your lawn mowed, you don't really need to say, hey, like, can you come mow my lawn, unless you have like a mansion and it's massive and it's a ton of square feet that needs to be mowed. But a normal case, it's normally pretty flat rate for mowing. So I don't see why companies shouldn't have like a kind of a calendar widget on their website of you can go at any time and see, hey, you know, they have someone who could mow my lawn at 10 a.m. tomorrow and 3 p.m. tomorrow, which one works for me? Otherwise, I can look at a different day. And now you don't have to call someone. A lot of the times in those businesses, when you call the business owner, they have to take time, stop whatever they're doing. I've called service-based businesses before, and you can literally hear they're out in the field doing something, and they stop to pick up the phone. And a lot of the times, they'll write it down on a piece of paper, and if that paper gets lost, you might lose a client because you never show. And it's the same with payment, we found as well, is they'll go and do like HVAC we have a huge possible way to implement to the HVAC market, and those are like hundreds to thousands of dollars of systems, and I don't think at that level they might be doing this, but like even a lawnmower, you might write, hey, or whatever service, you might write, hey, Bob owes me X dollars for this service on a piece of paper, and then you lose that, you forget to invoice them. So that was the original problem we came at solving, and I'm kind of a product and process improvement person, so I added a ton of stuff without trying to do it all. But yeah, that's kind of what that business does. So hoping to go to market soon. So if anyone's in that space as well, I'd love to chat about that. But yeah.
Any other questions? Lots of great questions today. Okay, well, thank you, Dillon.
Perfect. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I just